We just heard about the importance of survivors from the bombings 1945 in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And one of the survivors is Sachiko Yasui, who was 5 years old, I think, when the bomb struck her city, Nagasaki. And an American author and journalist called Caren Stelson has interviewed Sachiko and written a book telling us about what happened to Nagasaki and the Sachiko family. And we are now going to listen to Caren Stelson, who tells us the story about Sachiko, who was 5 years old in 1945. And that one is, of course, then recorded.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak with you today on this International Day of Peace, September 21st, 2025, as well as remembering Mahatma Gandhi's 156th birthday, coming next week on October 2nd. I mentioned Gandhi because I'm happy to share with you a nonfiction book, this one, that I've written about a Nagasaki atomic bomb survivor, Sachiko Yusui, and Gandhi's influence on her. I'm a writer for children and young adults, and I believe in the power of story, that stories can open our young people's eyes to the world and inspire them to step in to the world with resilience and courage. We need stories like Sachiko's. I'm going to share my screen with you. My guess is that everyone in this room today has been inspired in some way by Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy of nonviolence and the deep love of life embedded in the ancient Hindu word ahimsa. Gandhi himself would never know how many people he influenced to become great peace leaders. Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, John Lennon, to name a brief three of the many. How could Gandhi have known the impact of his work beyond his consequential life? I believe it's the same for us, I'll bet, on a much smaller scale. We may never know how many people we inspire and empower with those we meet and share our goals of peace and nonviolence. And maybe it doesn't matter if we know or not, as long as our work for peace continues to have an impact on others, no matter how small. I believe you and I are part of an unbroken ripple of Gandhi's ahimsa, or at least strive to be so. And that's one reason we are gathered together today. And now for the story. This is Sachiko Yusui, and she is part of this unbroken ripple of ahimsa as well. Here she is. She is 6 years old in 1945, at the end of World War II, and her home, Nagasaki, Japan. On August 6th, the United States dropped the first atomic bomb over the city of Hiroshima, exploding with a force of 15,000 tons of TNT. 92% of the city was destroyed, and approximately 70,000 people were killed. And that number would double in the months that followed as people succumbed to their wounds, their burns, and radiation exposure. More apocalyptic destruction was too soon to follow Hiroshima's. In the late morning of August 9th, 6-year-old Sachiko was playing outside with her friends, making mud dumplings near her Nagasaki home. At 11:02 a.m., the second atomic bomb exploded over her city. Sachiko and her friends were only a half a mile from ground zero. More than 40,000 people died that day in Nagasaki. Among them were 23 members of Sachiko's extended family, Sachiko's friends. Her little brother Toshi, her two older brothers Aki and Ichiro were among those who perished. Sachiko herself, it was just a miracle she survived. And so did her younger sister Misa and their mother and father for a time. And just like in Hiroshima, the number of those who died in Nagasaki from their injuries and cancers would continue to rise. After the bombing, Sachiko's family escaped through the hellish landscape of nuclear war towards a rescue train. Sachiko's father continued to shout out, "Follow me, follow me." These two words, follow me, would echo throughout Sachiko's life. This rendition of the rescue train by an artist survivor is what Sachiko experienced. No child, no human being should ever, ever again experience the extreme trauma of nuclear war. And surprisingly, in this story of extreme war, Gandhi appears. Sachiko's father, a pacifist, was studying Gandhi during the deadliest war in human history, and he was learning English. These activities were against the law at the time. Anything foreign was against the law under the wartime Japanese government. Gandhi's philosophy had touched Sachiko's father, kept him sane, and helped him lead his family out of destruction. You might ask how I know this. I knew Sachiko. I traveled 5 times, consecutive years, to Nagasaki to interview her between the years 2010 and 2015 to write her story and this book. As a writer for children and young adults, I knew in my bones we needed Sachiko in America. And I believe your young people in Sweden do as well, and everywhere else in the world. Sachiko knew nothing about Gandhi until 1948, when Gandhi was assassinated. At the time, Sachiko was 9 years old. I'd like to read what happened at that time. So the chapter from A Seed for the Future. This is the only world we can live in, Sachiko. Never say evil words, otherwise we will not see peace. Hate only produces hate. These were the words Father said to Sachiko, the words he lived by. Each day, Father walked to the public library to study and read the newspaper. Each day, he returned home to share whatever he had learned. And one afternoon in early February, 9-year-old Sachiko found Father outside shoveling rubble to make space for a new chrysanthemum garden. The news weighed heavily on him. Father put his hand on Sachiko's shoulder. The world has lost a great man. Sachiko was confused, but she could read her father's troubled eyes. The great man he was speaking of was India's Mohandas K. Gandhi, or the Mahatma, as the world knew him. Newspapers around the world reported on January 30th, 1938, Sachiko had been killed by an assassin's bullet. Father had studied Gandhi and his philosophy of nonviolence. His hand still lay on Sachiko's shoulder. You are too young to read Gandhi's work, Sachiko. But one day you must study Gandhi. You will learn something you will need for the rest of your life. The year before Gandhi's death, Sachiko's father was digging in the rubble of what had been their home, looking for what they had lost and what he might find. He found one and only one item, a green ceramic bowl, a wedding gift given to Sachiko's mother from her mother. By a miracle, the ceramic bowl had survived without a chip or a crack, and here it is. Everyone's fingerprints were on that bowl, including little Toshi's and Aki's and Ichiro's. In the aftermath of war, Sachiko's family used grandmother's bowl for everything: meals, washing up, and praying for peace. Every August 9th, on the anniversary of the bombing and the end of war, instead of going to the peace ceremony at the Nagasaki Peace Park, Sachiko's family stayed at home. Sachiko's mother would fill the bowl with ice. All day, as the ice melted, the family prayed for all who perished in the war and for world peace. After we worked on her story for 5 years, Sachiko gave me her grandmother's bowl as a gift. A bowl of trust and friendship, a bowl of peace, a bowl of ahimsa. When Sachiko was 20, her father died from stomach cancer. Because of the intense radiation exposure, Hibakusha, the Japanese atomic bomb survivors, were diagnosed with more and more cancers. Leukemia, thyroid cancers, and many others were on the rise. Sachiko remembered her father's words about Gandhi and her father's own words, "Follow me, follow me." And so she did. As a way to heal from grief, Sachiko returned to the same cemetery where her father had huddled and her family had huddled against the intense heat of the bombing. And she began to study Gandhi. I'd like to read what she told me and what she learned. Reading Gandhi, Sachiko's heart opened in a new way of thinking, a new way of being in the world. Despite the pain she had suffered from war, from bullying she had experienced in school, the longing for her siblings, it was still possible to love the world and maybe change it. Father had been right. Sachiko could teach her what Gandhi would teach her what she would need for the rest of her life. The more Sachiko read of Gandhi, the more she realized she wanted to possess a mind and heart like his. But how? He had written, this is Gandhi, love is a skill. Forgiveness is a skill. The transformation of anger is a skill. All these can be learned. All of this can be learned? She would try. Sachiko bought a journal, and each day after work at the accounting office, she sat at the edge of the cemetery to read Gandhi and take notes. She read, "Nonviolence is not a garment to be put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our very being." Through her study of Gandhi, Sachiko had come to understand something important. How Gandhi had become Gandhi, how father had become father, and how she, Sachiko Yusui, might become the person she wished to be. On the 50th anniversary of the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and particularly in August of the bombing of Nagasaki, and there was an anniversary commemoration. This was in 1995. At the time, Sachiko was 56 years old. She took the bold step at that time to step out and tell her story publicly and what she learned about Gandhi. I see this stepping out and telling your story in public as a huge act of courage. The children of Japan were Sachiko's primary audience because, like Gandhi, she believed if we are to have peace, we must begin with the children. Sachiko traveled throughout Japan, Canada, and the United States, She lectured at many universities about her experience calling for the elimination of nuclear weapons and urging people to work tirelessly for peace. On one of her trips to the United States, I met Sachiko in Minneapolis at our Japanese Peace Park. This was in August of 2005, the 60th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Sachiko had been invited by the St. Paul Nagasaki Sister City Committee to tell us her story. Every August 9th, I fill a replica of grandmother's bowl with ice in community with members of the St. Paul Nagasaki Sister City Committee as we commemorate the atomic bombing of Nagasaki and we pray for peace, just as Sachiko had done. It is our annual community ritual. I come to see Sachiko's bowl as a bowl full of peace. I know this grandmother's bowl is filled with hopes and prayers for peace, but there is much more. This bowl is filled with the skill set for peacemakers, empathy, compassion, deep listening, respect for one another, courage to reduce conflict, courage to find common ground, a profound belief in truth and justice, hope for the future, and much more. As Gandhi said, peace is a skill we can learn. I'd like to leave you with Sachiko's words, the words she would share with children, the words that echoed Gandhi and her father. She says, the most important thing is to live your life. Life is what is important. And she thought about it more. What is more she could say? What would be the most important to remember for these kids? Sachiko looked into the eyes of the children. Remember this, every word is precious. One word can make you feel loved. One word can hurt. One word can make you cry. One word can break your heart. One word can do so much damage. One word can do so much good. Even one word can lead people. One word can protect world peace. Every word is precious. And when you grow up, remember to tell my story. Have your children tell my story, and their children, and theirs. When I asked Sachiko at the end of our time working together if there was anything else she would like to share with us, she asked us to think about these questions. What is peace? What kind of person should I be? Keep pursuing answers to these questions. Let's pursue Sachiko's questions together, not just for today, but every day. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you, and may we all find our personal paths to peace so we can bring our own peace into the world. Thank you again.